So we say we want authenticity, but when people actually show up as themselves, it often makes others uncomfortable. So today we're going to talk about why that is and what it's costing us. This is your Critical Crush, where we keep it cute, candid, and connected. I'm Jay Theo, and let's get critical. Okay, so unless you're living under a rock and you have not been on social media in the last 2 years, you know that authenticity and being yourself and all these things are what everyone says they want. Like, you need to be yourself. You have to be yourself. You have to be authentic. People want the real. They want the gritty. They want you. They want your stories. They want you to show up as yourself. That's how you get a following. That's how you connect with people. All the things. And even though I'm not upset with the idea of being authentic online, I think it's great that we want to be more of ourselves, and that authenticity and being genuine is what, getting more clout and more fame and all these things. I think it's interesting how everybody wants this authentic, genuine vibe online, on screen. I still feel like performative people, polished people, people that are afraid to be themselves are the ones that really see the rewards in the actual real life that we live in outside of the screens. And I say that because I feel like this authentic push has really been driven by Gen Z and the Gen Z culture, and they want ads that feel like the marketer and the companies are not selling to them. They don't want it to feel fake. They don't want it to feel forced. They want this genuine, real vibe. And I feel like that's why even just with ads and stuff, a lot of time it's now driven by influencers and social media, because they want to see somebody really using the product, and they want to see somebody really, experiencing the experience or whatever. And that's great. But I think what annoys me about it is Gen Z, when you go out in the world, they're the ones, no tea, no shade, but have all this social anxiety about being themselves and about talking to someone. When you go out to the bars and clubs now, they are the young people. They are the youngest group that are adults. And they will just stand around. They don't want to dance. They don't want to party. They don't want to approach anyone. And even as someone who's been making TikToks and making content for years now, anytime I talk about approaching people or putting yourself out there or flirting or doing any of that, it's always people in my comments being like, I'm too scared. I'm too nervous. Oh my God, I feel like I'm going to be embarrassed. I don't want, I'm scared of rejection. I'm scared of all these things. And it's like, to me, there's no way you can be fully authentic and have all these fears of how you show up in the world. I think it's all connected, because if you are scared to dance at a bar, at a club, if you are scared to show up as yourself in any other capacity, then dating and all the other things you're gonna show up the same way. And I think it's just interesting how we demand all these things of influencers and people online and in media and in TV, but then are mute when it comes to real life. I think it's the one big difference between millennials and Gen Z. And I'm not trying to make this a whole generation thing, but I do think generationally, Gen Z and even Gen Alpha, they're the ones that are so scared to be themselves. They're so scared to be out and about. And yes, I think the phones have a lot to do with it. I think people are scared they're going to be recorded. People are scared that they're going to be the next meme, or they're going to be the next embarrassment online. But honestly, if you are enjoying yourself, if you are being yourself, I would never be mad at someone or judge someone for really being themselves and having a good time, as long as it's in a positive vibe and something that is not harmful to anyone. I just don't see, I personally, if I saw that online, I would be like, at least they're living their life, at least they're doing themselves. And honestly, when I have seen videos of somebody trying to capture somebody dancing and make fun of them, or somebody making fun of their outfit, I'm always like, well, at least they're out being their true self, or at least they're not afraid to be their true self or be authentic. We let social media, we let these screens and these phones and stuff dictate too much of our lives to where we're not enjoying it. And I feel like at the end of the day, life is to be enjoyed. Life is to be experienced. Life and being a person is not perfect. I think embarrassment happens. Sometimes you make a misstep. Sometimes you don't have the best outfit on. Sometimes you may be offbeat dancing. Sometimes you may spill a drink or something like that. Or you may be at a social event and you may be socially awkward. But I think that's also just a part of growth. That's a part of the character development. That's part of the story that I think a lot of us are limiting ourselves from, because we are so scared to be judged and be seen, or to be put on the internet. And honestly, I think it's lame for anybody to record or capture a stranger doing anything. You're lame. You clearly are projecting what you don't want to do. If that person dancing having a good time, you're projecting that you cannot dance and have a good time. You're really just projecting your insecurities and your flaws onto others. And I think at the end of the day, that's more of a you problem than a them problem. So yeah, I feel like it's all connected. Even though I love the push to be more authentic and that's a more part of culture now, I think it's a little bit a hoax when you're not doing that in real life. And then my next thought when it comes to being authentic is being vulnerable. And I think being vulnerable for a lot of people is a miss or something that they try to avoid because everybody thinks somebody's out to get them. Or if they're honest with somebody, then it's going to come out and somebody's going to tell their business and all these things, or it's always going to come back to bite them. And I know for me, authenticity is 100% linked to vulnerability. And it's hard for me to even connect with someone on a deeper level if we never kind of reach that vulnerable moment. I really don't see a friendship as a real friendship with a big F. Like, we are friends if we cannot be vulnerable with each other. And I feel the same thing about dating. If dating is always going to be surface level, it's not going to get to that depth, we're really being vulnerable, opening up, and kind of actually having that connection, then I don't see how this could ever be something serious or something with depth. And one thing I've noticed is that for me, if we are not getting to that point of vulnerability, if we are not getting to that point where we're opening up, that's really a factor of why I will end things with a friend or with somebody I'm dating. Or that's when I designate the friend. You're just a going out friend. You're just go shopping with friend. You're just grab lunch friend, but we're not going to ever have no depth. We're not going to ever have anything of substance because you can't be vulnerable. I literally have people in my life right now that they're kind of in those buckets because it's like, you never open up, you're never really vulnerable, like we're just gonna be where we are, because I feel like connection and to be authentic takes a little bit of vulnerability. It takes a little bit of feeling raw. It takes a little bit of feeling uneasy, uncomfortable. It does take trust, but I think there always has to be a level of you being somewhat not polished, somewhat not curated for me to think you're a real person. I just like if you're always coming off curated and you never can share. But I'm not saying it always has to be your deepest, darkest secrets, but even just opening up in a light way or just connecting in a way that's sharing, that's being a part of a connection, I think takes a level of realness that if it's not offered, I will always deem you as kind of fake or just not someone that's really invested in like a real human connection if that's just who you are. And hey, we have levels of vulnerability. I'm not saying there can't be levels. I mean, honestly, I'm not vulnerable with coworkers the same way I'm vulnerable with a friend or a family member, and I can set those boundaries with a coworker or an acquaintance. I'm not saying this is where you need to always be open and authentic with, but I think we underestimate vulnerability and opening up and that level of connection and how that deepens your vibe of being authentic and being genuine and being real, because nobody's perfect. Nobody has a happy, perfect life all the time. Everybody has something that they're embarrassed about or ashamed of, or that they are sad about, or they wish worked out better, or they may regret. I just definitely think that's just another aspect of being authentic, is the levels in which you are open to being vulnerable. And I know for me, if we are really trying to connect in a way that is to be authentic and have depth, and there's no vulnerability there, then for me, I know that that's just where that type of relationship ends, and I can define really that we are just like acquaintances or just surface level friends, or this is a guy I'm no longer gonna pursue, because I need that level of being genuine for me to really build a strong connection. And like I said, I get it, that depth and really connecting and being open and even just being able to share your thoughts about something. I think a lot of us sometimes are afraid to share a thought about something, get deep about something, because we may be afraid that person may think we're doing too much, or like, oh my God, why are they going that deep about it? I don't want to hear all that. And I'm not saying that cannot be risky in a sense of like maybe that person may not want to hear all that or may not want to connect with you on that. But that's a part of, I feel like, being a person that has substance, that has depth, is that you're taking that risk. I feel like it's also showing you when you bring up deeper things or deeper thoughts or more genuine, authentic thoughts. I also think you're filtering out the people that aren't for you, because I feel like who we really are is the depths of us. Surface and the curated version of us really isn't who we are. I think who we really are is are thoughts that take a step deeper? Are thoughts that are a little bit more well-rounded? Are thoughts that come from more of a deeper place? So I definitely think that yes, there could be risk when you want to go deeper, when you want to explore, more authentic conversations. But at the same point, like, how are you going to really figure out connections that really are meant for you, or friendships that are meant for you, or maybe even just ways that you can understand someone better so that you can better be a better friend, or you can be a better lover, or you can be a better family member if you don't open up and kind of have more of those riskier conversations. And I think that we underestimate the power of risk, and we think we underestimate the power of just being real with people. I think we always think it's a negative, when honestly there's been times where someone's been real with me on something I disagree with, or I don't really have a positive understanding of, but the way they explained it, the way they opened up, made me kind of grasp and look at it differently and have a different viewpoint, and it made our connection even stronger. So I think we also underestimate how our point of view, or what something we think how it could affect someone, and being more open to the possibilities that everything doesn't have to have a negative outcome, everything doesn't have to have risk in this negative way. Sometimes offering more depth and being more open and vulnerable in ways you never thought before could lead to a depth in your connection, even if it isn't something you may agree on, or something that you may have like a positive understanding of. So with all that, I now want to lead into the talk you through it portion of this, where I kind of share more of my experience of dealing with the discomfort of people and me being authentic and genuine, how I definitely have battled sometimes wanting to be authentic and genuine, but ultimately what I realized about myself, and how being authentic and genuine for me is the best way to be. And I feel like it just also just eliminates a lot of things that can change course when you aren't truly being your authentic self. So I want to start with how dating for me has always been a difficult thing. And I feel like it's always been very difficult because I've always been someone who's just always tried to be myself as much as possible. I never really understood being a curated version of yourself. I never really understood holding back. I just always felt like if you were connecting with a person, why not show them the real you? And I get that people say you don't always want to show your full self to people because you never know. You don't always want to just overshare and all these things. And I get that to an extent. But I feel like when you are preventing yourself so much from oversharing or revealing too much of yourself, then I think you often start becoming a person that feeds more into the polished version of you than to the unpolished version of you. And I've noticed when I'm on dates, a lot of times guys are definitely giving you a polished version of themselves. They're giving a very interviewee version of themselves. They're giving a very much like saying what they think you want to hear. And for me, it's like I want to find my person who gets me. So I'm going to say things that is me, and I know I've been told so many times on dates and when I'm connected with guys that you're a lot. You're a lot. You talk a lot. You're a lot. Your just energy is just a lot. Like, I've been told that so many times. And while some guys have said it in a positive way, even when guys say it in a positive way, it always has made me have this level of insecurity sometimes about it when I was younger, where it's like, if I'm a lot, maybe I need to tone it down. Maybe I need to talk less. Maybe I just shouldn't show up with all this energy when I'm getting to know guys. It's definitely had me in my feelings before. But now that I've gotten older, I realized that I'd rather go on dates where I'm completely being Jay. I'm speaking how I would speak. I'm bringing the energy how I would bring it, because I've noticed when I used to be more reserved after those moments and I wouldn't fully be myself, and then I finally would have a real moment with this person and be myself later on, then they'll be like, that's weird, or you're doing too much, or what it was happening. They would then be like taken back that I'm finally showing up as myself. And vice versa. I feel like when I'm dating a guy and I finally start seeing the real them, they're not putting on this show anymore. You start really seeing the real layers come back. Then it's like, oh, you're not the vibe I thought you were. And I'm not saying that like, as you get to know someone, there shouldn't be discovery. There's always going to be discovery. You're never going to know everything about one person when you first meet them. I'm not saying that. But definitely when it comes to people's character, people's vibes, people's energy, I definitely think that like, I want that to be as genuine as possible when I first meet you. I don't want your energy and your vibe and your aura, that type of thing, to shift 6 months down the line because you finally are deciding to take that mask off. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I wanted you to come off and be in the realm of you, you know. And yes, I mean, yes, we're not gonna, like I said earlier, we're not gonna tell our deepest darkest secrets. I don't need to know your deepest darkest moments in life and all these things, but naturally I just want you to show up and be the vibe that you always are, because that's what I want to fall in love with. That's who I want to befriend. If I'm looking at friends, that's who I want to feel like I'm building a genuine connection with, not some fake mask version of you. And, you know, I do think that I'm a lot energy-wise and all these things in a sense, what people have said to me. But I think that's what makes me cool. I think a lot of people don't have energy. I think a lot of people are boring. Like, I hate going on dates with boring people. I hate, you know, hey, everybody's a person. I'm not saying boring people are bad, but I don't enjoy boring. I don't enjoy just, you know, always being laid back and never having energy and just always wanted to be so like flatline. That's not my vibe. And people tell me they love my energy. When I'm in improv class, people say they love my energy. When I'm out at a party, people come up to me randomly and say, your energy is everything. So no, I'm not shutting that down anymore. I don't care. I'm not going to apologize to be myself. I used to apologize, and it's the issue sometimes I still have when I am dating a guy, that sometimes I'll say like, sorry if I'm talking too much, or sorry if I'm doing this, sorry if I'm doing that. And I will say most guys are like, no need to apologize. But one thing I'm learning is I'm not apologizing anymore. I'm not apologizing for being me. I want the dude that just gets me and is cool with me. And yes, we can have conversations about growth and evolution, and you know, maybe there's things that we all can work on as people. I don't mind hearing that from my partner. But as far as like who I am, as we're getting to know each other, who I show up as, I don't think that I should apologize or have to not be myself to get the connection that I want. A lot of us show up in these curated ways and wonder why it doesn't work out in the end, or wonder why we realize later on that we really weren't a match, or we really weren't meant to be a vibe. Even with friendships, like I'm over forcing friendships, I'm over forcing connections like that as well. If we are not the same vibe, if it's showing that you're not really appreciating my energy, then like that's just what it is. And I think we better know that earlier on than later on in our friendship, you know? Because now when I hear you're a lot, your energy is a lot, or your vibe is a lot, I take it as like, okay, that's information. That means I'm still being myself. That means I'm still doing Jay, because that's why I want to show up. I want to show up as myself. So now I don't look at it as this negative thing. I look at it as like, okay, Jay continues to show up as himself. Jay continues to show up as who he is. And I know one day the guy that is meant to be with me will appreciate that. And I already know the friends that I have, they appreciate it. So I'm glad that that's a thing. And yeah, sometimes being that person can be exhausting, which I talked about in my last episode of my podcast. Sometimes when you are offering your energy and people know you offer a certain energy, it can be exhausting if that's what they demand. But that still doesn't mean that you shouldn't be able to appreciate that about yourself and accept that about yourself. And it doesn't mean that people get to criticize you for being you. And a lot of times when people do that, they're pretty much projecting, criticizing themselves, because they are never themselves, and they wish that they had the courage to offer the energy that you offer. Because when I realize people really aren't being their true selves, they're not being vulnerable, they're not opening up, they're not being authentic, it just really turns me off, and I'm no longer interested. Because who wants to be dating someone who's just like a polished doll or like a polished mannequin? Like, what am I really getting out of this? I don't feel like this is natural. I don't feel like it's real. It doesn't come off organic. It comes off fake. And if you're always going to be performing, what fun is that? And like, I just feel like to show up and to have to perform all the time, to have to feel like you need to put on a front all the time, to me, that's just exhausting. That's tiring. And it's like, who cares? I don't care that much about other people to where I'm going to always be doing that. And yes, we all care about people to an extent, but I don't care that much that I'm about to always be performing, or every day that I go on, I'm going to perform so I can keep this man, or I can keep this situation going. That seems exhausting. It seems lame. It seems just like too much work. And I really wish a lot more of us could just get out of that mindset of that we need to put on this show. Yes, I get wanting to impress people. Yes, I get wanting to put your best foot forward. But just the best version of yourself doesn't need to be a fake version of yourself. You know what I'm saying? The most positive version of yourself doesn't mean it needs to be a curated version of yourself. You can still be yourself, be positive, be your best self, but it doesn't need to be polished and perfect, and it doesn't need to be such a performance. Because being present shouldn't feel like pressure. You shouldn't feel like there's pressure with just being present, being yourself, being there. I feel like if something makes you feel that way, then I feel like that is toxic. If I feel pressure just sitting across from you on a date, if I feel pressure just being in my living room with you and watching TV, then I think that's the problem. I think the friendships that I love the most are the ones where I completely do feel like myself. I feel like I'm talking like myself. I'm acting like myself. I'm vibing like myself. I feel like the friendships where I ever felt like it's weird tension, or I feel like I can't say what I really want to say, I feel like that's when I realized you're not really my friend, or I just don't like this vibe enough to want to continue this, or it's going to be dosages when we hang out, or it's going to have to be a group thing because I just don't like the energy, because I feel like if you're pressuring me to move out of who I am, that's a problem, and you're not really my friend, and you don't really care about the real me. And I feel like for me, I am someone who still is a slow burn. Like, I like to connect with someone over time. I like to see somebody through seasons. I like to experience someone through all different facets. And dudes have gotten mad at me before because I feel like they typically like to move a lot faster. That they like to move very, very quick. And I think that's also another level of performing. I feel like when you move really quick, you're putting on a performance because you kind of want to show somebody that you're this person quicker so you can fall into this love quicker. And I think that's why love bombing is such a problem in modern dating, because people are just trying to show up so quick and show up so fast in ways that are not natural. And I think when you have a more slow burn, where you guys are opening up and being vulnerable, and you kind of feel the more organic way of this person, the connection can build in a deeper way, because that's just more real. You have to see people over time. You have to understand people through different levels of emotion. You have to understand people through different levels of experiences to really be able to call someone your friend, or call someone your lover, your husband, or your wife, or your boyfriend, whatever it is. And I think a lot of times we rush the process, and I think that's why being inauthentic is so normalized, because a lot of people are trying to rush a process. They're trying to rush a connection, and the only way to do that is to be inauthentic. You cannot rush the real you. You cannot rush the real perspective, and I think that's why a lot of times people find the clauses or the skeletons or the things they don't like about someone later on, because people are rushing through things, and they're rushing their judgment, they're rushing the vibes, they're rushing everything, and that's leading to a dishonest, unreal version of you and that person. Ultimately, I think for me, it's hard for me to want to build a bond with someone that thinks being seen or being looked at and how you're perceived is more important than how you're actually living. Like, I want to connect with people that actually want to live and experience life, and vibe with life, and just have more of a free, kind of just like flowy kind of appreciation for life, versus this like, oh my God, everything has to be perfect, or I'm being seen in this moment that, I can't really be my full self. Like, I want to feel like we are just on this adventure, and whoever's watching, enjoy the show, get your popcorn kind of thing. I don't care that much about how I'm being seen in the way that's going to affect like my choices in a big way. Yes, we all care about our outfits and our clothes and makeup and hair and all those things as far as just like our aesthetic, and how we look. But for the most part, I still feel like that's more for me. Like, I like looking cute. I like having my hair done. I like wearing cute clothes. I like getting my nails done. All these things. I like seeing Jay look like that. You know what I'm saying? When I look in the mirror. And I feel like I don't put so much on like others, how I'm being perceived, and a lot of that has allowed me to lean more into my femininity. Like, even with my nails, getting my nail art all the time. I love nail art. You can't see, guys, but I love nail art. Right now I have like some 3D gold and like these white cute pattern nails are really cute, but I love nail art, and it took me to the point where I'm like, I don't care what people think, especially but when nail art and being feminine wasn't I feel like as trendy as it kind of is now. This is like 10 years ago when I was in New York and I started getting my nails done. I would feel really self-conscious, and dudes would ask me like, "Oh, you get your nails done? You get nail art?" They would say it in a negative way, even just like makeup and things like that. It was like always this negative vibe for men, to where for a moment I did let it get to me, and I did allow myself to not show up the way I wanted to because of men. But then I was like, you know what? I don't care. I'm doing this for me. I give a crap. I like the way I look in it. And so at this point in my life, if you're someone who cares more about how you're perceived or what you look like than actually living life and being you, it just wouldn't be a match, because I've surpassed that. And I'm not saying we don't have moments of that, but for the most part, I would say 85% me. I don't care. I'm going to do what I want to do for me and how I look and how I vibe, and I'm not going to make choices based on what others think of me or how I'm perceived. Like, that just to me is exhausting, and it just really zaps like such a key portion out of life. So yes, I really do value authenticity, but I think right now in the world, I think a lot of us need to practice what we preach. We can push it on social media all we want. We can force it in our media and our marketing all we want. If you're not showing up as a real person in real life, if you are allowing others to dictate how you move through the world, if you are not dancing at a party, if you are not doing what you want to do, if you are worried about somebody pulling out their phone and capturing you, then ultimately you're not being authentic to yourself. You are not living life the best way that you can. If you are someone who always is trying to be someone different on dates or trying to be a more polished version of yourself all the time when you're dating and connecting with people, I really feel like you're doing a disservice. For me, I get the most excited about connections where I knew I was fully myself and they enjoyed me. That's, to me, is where I get the most excitement, is when someone tells me, hey, I liked your vibe as you were. And that's what I say when I'm at a party or when I'm vibing, somebody comes to me and say, I really like my energy. That just warms my heart. And honestly, it's one of my most favorite compliments because that's what I can control. I can control my energy. I can control how I show up. I can control how I vibe. I necessarily can't control who's attracted to me. I can't control, the way I look all the way. Most of this is my parents, doing. But what I can control is my energy, my vibe, how I show up. And for something that you can control, for someone to come up and say, like, I appreciate that, I love that, when you really are just being who you naturally are, I think that's just such a win to have in life. And I think more people should experience that win. And I think a lot more people would probably meet more people they like or vibe with more people they like or just have more positive experiences if they really did lean more into showing up as themselves. Okay, so I hope we're all able to sit with that, reflect on that, all the things. Now, definitely want to hear from you guys in the comments, and your thoughts on like what you guys think when it comes to being authentic. Do you think there's a push to be authentic online in marketing and media, but then when it comes to real life, a lot of people still aren't being authentic? Do you see that being polished and curated is still more awarded in real life than people showing up more raw and more themselves? Do you also feel like vulnerability is something that a lot of people don't lean into? And does that affect your connecting with people? Do you think someone not being vulnerable, do you think that you could actually connect and build bonds with them? Let me know in the comments. Definitely want to talk this through with you guys. Definitely want to hear from you. Okay, so now on to Crush, Crave, or Crash, and this is the segment of the episode where I let you guys know a little bit about my personality by letting you guys know about things that I like and things that I hate, okay? So right now, my crush, which will always be someone who's really doing something positive or they're doing something that I'm really excited about. My crush this week is Nene Leakes. So it's officially been announced that Nene will be making her return to Bravo. It's so exciting. I've always been a big Nene fan. There's been seasons where Nene got on my nerves. But for the most part, when it came to Real Housewives of Atlanta, I love Nene. I definitely think that she is one of the queens of reality TV, if not the queen of reality TV. I mean, who else? Maybe outside of Tiffany Pollard, but she literally is the queen of reality TV. I think Bravo definitely was missing something by not having her. I do appreciate, though, Nene for sticking up for herself when it came to the lawsuits and the racism and all the things. I definitely believe a lot of that stuff happened, when she was there, I'm pretty sure. But it's so cool to see her get her flowers. Since they're having the 20th anniversary, I believe, of Housewives, it's so cool to see that she's going to be able to be a part of that. And I'm just really excited for her. You could tell she was really, really happy on the post that she made. And just seeing her get emotional and stuff was really it just was really special, and it warms my heart to see her going to be back on our screens, and we're going to get to see her journey again and see her vibe and hopefully get more memes and more cute sayings from Nene. So definitely looking forward to that. Love me some Nene and so excited that she's going to be back. And I believe what she's going to be back on is the Ultimate Girls Trip. So the road trip one, I guess, is going to be. So I'm assuming that's what she's going to be on. I think that's what they stated. But either way, whatever she's on next, I'm going to support it. I'm going to watch it. Love me some Nene. So next up is Crave, and Crave is something that I'm like obsessed with. It can be a product, it can be a TV show, it can be anything. So this week my Crave is The Boyfriend, the show The Boyfriend on Netflix. So y'all, I was obsessed with the first season of this, and I recently just watched the first season like a couple months ago. I didn't watch it when it aired, and this time I'm actually watching season 2 as it's airing. And The Boyfriend basically is like a Japanese dating show, and all of the guys are, for the most part, Asian, Japanese. Some of them have different roots, but they all live in Japan, or they're from Japan, and they're on this dating show. They're all like, it ranges from like 20 to 40 years old. This is the first time they have like a 40-year-old this season. I will say some of the couples I'm not enjoying so far, but I love the show. I love seeing gay men vibe and connect and go on dates and be vulnerable, much like when it came to Heated Rivalry. So I love seeing it. I will say, though, it just makes me all these shows does make me just really want to see more showcases of black culture like this. I definitely would love to see more black gay men doing shows like this in a more positive way. So I will say it's making me just want that more and more. So hopefully we'll get to see more versions of this with, men of all races. I love the spin on this for the boyfriend being Japanese, and I'm not taking anything away from that. And Asian culture is still diversity and all those things. But selfishly, I definitely do want to see more black gay stories like this. I definitely want to see more ways to see black gay men in love in a positive way. Now, do I think black gay Americans could vibe the same way on a show like The Boyfriend in the way they probably would cast it? Probably not. I definitely think it would be a lot more messy, especially when people are seeing people they used to date and all these things. But I really wish there could be a showcase somehow in our modern world where we can see black love in a realistic way, in a positive way on TV and in movies. So that's my one wish. But I definitely am craving The Boyfriend. I think I'm almost done with the last episode that's available right now. So I definitely will be making some content to talk about it. So look out for that. But yes, I'm loving The Boyfriend right now. And lastly, my crash. So I have a couple crashes, I think. So my first crash is more related to the topic of this week's episode with authenticity and being vulnerable, all these things. So my crash is being on a date and someone treating like an interview. I think that's the most boring date. I think dates should feel like a conversation. They should feel fun. They should kind of feel vibrant. And I feel like when you're asking all these interview questions, I think it does not feel fun. It feels very like your intentions are just to find your husband, find your boyfriend, which is great, but it's not feeling like it's coming from a place of anything that's real. So that is one of my crashes when it comes to this topic. But my other major crash is ICE. I think ICE is trash. I think how they're recruiting people to basically traumatize American citizens and immigrants in this country is trash. I think the people that are signing up for it is trash. I don't care if you need the money. I don't care. There's so many other things to do in this world. And if you want to have a job where you literally terrorize people, I think that's disgusting. So, and just even the way they're recruiting people and all the stuff and how they're forgiving their student loans, but then other people that actually do great work in this world, positive work in this world, you won't forgive their student loans. So I just think it's all disgusting and nasty. And I think ICE is just the fact that they don't even have these credentials, but they can go in people's homes and they're going door to door, and JD Vance and all of them, they're all just trash. So that's my crash. I don't wish anything positive for any of those people, and I just hope one day that our country can get back of a state of normalcy where this will all be disgusting to everyone. And yeah, so that's my crash for the week. So as always, I always want to end with a critical question, and today I'm going to end with two critical questions. The first one is, where are you performing instead of connecting? And my second one is, who do you feel safest being imperfect around? So sit with that, think it through, drop a comment, let me know. But as always, guys, this has been so fun. I hope that you guys are enjoying this podcast. Be sure to let me know your thoughts. If you guys are liking the topic, if you guys are liking the segment, I am flexible. I definitely want to make sure that this is a conversation that you guys are enjoying. And any feedback, any thoughts is super helpful to me. And as we lead into the weekend, do your best to stay cute, stay curious, and keep it critical.